Okay, this is Carlos Martinez, and I am Associate Instructor, MSJC, for both campuses. Business Law is my face-to-face course, and real estate-related courses online. So as I begin, um, Instructor-Initiated Communication Strategies. In this presentation, I'd like to discuss communication tools and how I inspire students, encourage performance, student communications with each other, and instructor-initiated communications. Well, first, in addition to the variety of social media that I use to communicate with my students, which includes Canvas, text, email, in this course, I've learned the value of Confer Zoom. I like the way Dale has taught it and presented as a virtual office. So as I get through the training for Confer Zoom, I will incorporate that into my online course for virtual office, as well as an one-to-one feedback with the students as needed. I really like Confer Zoom. I have my account set up, but now I have to just figure out what I'm doing and how to use it. Student inspiration was the other thing that we wanted to talk about. Well, I'm assuming that students are partly inspired by the motivation that initially drove them to enroll in the course in the first place. So during the course of the semester, I remind them of that motivation. I think that helps to keep them inspired. For example, during the Canvas orientation that I have, students introduce themselves. They share their academic goals, their professions, or maybe they're just a full-time student, and what their expectations are for the course. In addition, we play the three-statement game. You probably are all familiar with that, where we state three statements, where two of the statements are true, something interesting about us, and one statement is false. And then we try to guess the false statement. After a couple of attempts, we let everyone know what the false statement actually is. We have fun with that, and that gives us an opportunity to know a little bit about each student. And of course, the students know a little bit about me. One of the other things that I am going to incorporate into my efforts at student inspiration is to provide an inspirational, motivational thought at the beginning of each announcement. I usually have an average of maybe one announcement per week. I think that helps for student inspiration as well. Next, to encourage student performance. Well, there are a few things. I have two slides on this. First, what I do during grading feedback, I first acknowledge what the student has completed and done very well in their assignment. And then I typically would ask a question regarding that content for reflection. I don't always get back a email response, but just for the purposes of reflection. Number two, I ask students during the written assignments to imagine that they're teaching or they're providing a response to an uninformed consumer, prospect, or customer, and they know the content and it's a form of instruction. I think that helps them to actually um, visualize, and it helps them to learn it a bit better. Third method is student collaboration with each other in the discussion forum. So for the discussions, I may have a video or some other type of assignment for them to discuss. Typically, I will ask the student to share their opinion in terms of what they thought was most striking about the content, what they learned from the content. I'll ask the student to provide at least one post um, for one of their fellow students and elaborate on the content of that student. In addition, I'll ask the student to ask a question that enhances their understanding for what they have heard or read, and then to respond to one of the questions of the other students. Well, we have a lot of fun doing this, but with each student, I will also respond to their questions so that they have my feedback as well. I think this is valuable in terms of a relational type of approach and to encourage engagement and collaboration from student to student. Number 4, students are encouraged to express their opinions on the legal aspects, legal topics, real estate topics, professional ethics, and business. Their opinion is very important. I will typically ask, what did you think about that law? Was it a good law or not a good law? Who did it benefit the most? And in your opinion, if you were to write that law, how would you write it and why? I think their opinions are very important. I learn a lot from their opinions as well. Number 5, students well, this is a late assignment waiver. I have a policy where a student, if they anticipate uh, being late on an assignment, this only applies to written assignments, however, in Canvas. Um, they can send an email with the name of the course and a subject line. They would explain the reason for making the request for a late assignment, and they would post the date that they will submit their assignment. If they follow this procedure, a full-term course, a student will be able to have up to 3 late assignment waivers. In a short-term course, it's 2. Now, just a note at the bottom here, students rarely abuse the process here. This accommodation that I've made for them, I think I've had 1 or 2 students who actually attempted to abuse the process. Otherwise, most students do not use all 3. And most students really have expressed their appreciation for having that policy. At the Rate My Professor website, they comment because it's an anonymous, as you know. They can post their real feelings about the course and the instructor. And I've had a number of comments expressing their gratitude. Well, instructor-initiated communications. Concern, well-being, and support is what I attempt to do here. In my syllabus, I have posted my cell phone and my office number. If a student calls my office, my staff knows that students are my priority, and they'll just patch it through or find me if I'm not available. I do have my direct cell phone, and on my syllabus um, I have availability Monday through Friday. Now, students use email, text, Canvas, and a variety of ways to contact me. But with that open policy, I have found that not too many students call direct. Most of them use text, and a number of them will use email, and we will complete our communications that way. I did put, and they know in the orientation as well as in the syllabus, that I have quiet time Friday night until Saturday night, which means I'll respond by text only. Well, finally, my efforts in having these policies and strategies is to encourage trust, confidence, and foster motivation for the students to continue their academic pursuits. I think in my real estate as well as business law courses, I emphasize a distinction between the person who focuses primarily on the transaction and one who focuses on the relationship. And I like to emphasize a relational approach. And if possible, I lead as an instructor by example. So I invite your feedback, your suggestions. Thank you very much for bearing with me through this. And I look forward to learning from all of you. Okay, thanks for listening.